Ohio Minasan, welcome back to our playthrough of Our Life Beginning and Always. We're continuing where we left off last time, where we'll continue another one of these lovely moments. Today we're going to do birthday. Road trip will be the last one. I think we're either gonna do 5 or we're gonna do 6. That seems to be the consensus. So I might do 7. I'm really debating because there's parts of this that I really, really like and that I really want to do more of. So we shall see. I might just end up doing all of them and you might just get all of them as a bonus because I want to do more. But anyway, let us get into this. We're going to do birthday today. And let's get into birthday. It was a pleasant afternoon. The sun shone brightly, and the breeze tugged lightly at the balloons strung around the park. You and Cove had just been dropped off at Miranda Eckert's I'm going to hope I'm saying that right, birthday party. You didn't really know Miranda. Last year was the first time you had class with her, and everyone at school knew her as Quiet, the shy girl stuck to her own friend group like glue. It had been a surprise that she was having such a big party. You looked down at the expansive park, a spacious recreation center in the town next over, and noticed a bouncy castle. Miranda had a bit of a reputation for not caring if she acted mature like other teens sometimes did. It made a certain amount of sense that her party would match that. Let's say we want to get to know her better. We obviously can't know her already because we just had class with her. So let's say we want to get to know her better. Maybe at this party, you'd have the chance to make friends with her. You were excited at the thought. You hadn't had a choice in coming here today. Your moms insisted on it after you got the invitation, as did Cove's mom and dad. So both you and he were driven over to the next town with presents in tow. All the parents had a pretty firm about going to a birthday party if you'd been invited. You wonder if it was an adult thing. You didn't get why it seemed like such a straightforward conclusion to them. Cove made a small noise which caught your attention. He looked around and scanning the area, fidgeting with the gift in his hand.
So...
Any idea what we're supposed to do with these? You looked at your own present, then towards the seating area. There was a table filled with snacks and drinks, supplies for various party games. Past all that, you spotted one table in the back that seemed to have a truckload of gifts. You pointed it out to Cove. I see presents! Let's go! Cove shrugged. He didn't look interested in the subject, even if you had just answered his question. Alright. He moved forward and headed for the gift table. You followed with your present in hand. You walked past groups of people, classmates in semicircles, broken up into the occasional friend groups, chatted away. You, or maybe Cove, received the occasional greeting or friendly nod. However, as you passed by even more people that you had never seen before, you became aware that there were more strangers here than not. It was more crowded than you expected. Miranda Eckhart, the quiet girl, was hosting the most populated birthday party you'd been to in a long time. You looked at the new faces and thought you saw something of Miranda in them. Cousins, nieces, or nephews, maybe? Parties could be a big deal in her family. The both of you reached the table. You set your gift down in an empty space, brushing some confetti aside. Cove placed his gift gently next to it. He looked at the present thoughtfully. Hey, what did you get her? Before you had the chance to answer, Cove opened his mouth again and tapped his gift. I found this sparkly backpack. I figured she could use it for a school trip or something. Your moms had taken you out shopping the other day. You'd searched through the store and ultimately... I don't know which of these for. All these sound like very weird presents, but also I feel like they could be good presents. Let's let her make her own toy. That sounds like an interesting idea. The colorful picture on the box appealed to you. It showed off the different variations you can make with the kit, along with the bolded messages of easy and 43 pieces included. Hopefully the kit was as cool as it looked. You described it to Cove briefly and he had no objections.
Not bad.
Not a bad idea. But I don't know much about gifts. You both let that sit between you. Eventually, you nodded. Yeah, I get it. Without the direction of needing to put stuff away, the two of you weren't sure what to do next. You felt a little awkward and Cove shrunk in on himself as he looked around. There were more guests headed to the present table, so you turned away and wandered over to the nearby tree where you wouldn't be in the way. From there, you both inspected the area and planned the next step. You were glad that Cove had been invited too. At least you had his company in this unfamiliar place. Unfamiliar place. You watched him, and he gave you a nervous grin. It reassured you a little, and you smiled back. What next? Cove did not appreciate being put on the spot. He was just as unsure as you were. Oh, I'm sorry, Cove. I don't mean to put you on the spot. I just want to know your opinion. Birthday party stuff? It didn't seem to be time for cake, what with people still arriving. Nothing else seemed to be organizing yet either. He noticed that himself and tried again. We could find Miranda. That was an idea. It made sense to greet the birthday girl. Okay, we could say hello. Wish her a happy birthday. Ask her what she wants people to do. We're coming up with questions on the fly.
Sounds good.
Oh, yes, of course it sounds good, Cove. With that point, it was decided the Miranda hunt had begun. You wandered around. Anytime you saw someone with Miranda's hair color, you got a little closer, but more than once it turned out to not actually be her. Hey, look! Finally, he pointed over to the real Miranda. She smiled slightly when you both approached, but ducked her head. She seemed a little overwhelmed with being the center of attention today. Hi, Blue. Hi, Cove. Oh, wait. I put that in wrong order. Hi, Cove. Hi, Blue. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Thanks.
Thanks.
I'm really glad you could come.
Holy shoot! You all stood awkwardly. Miranda did seem genuinely happy, but there was still a distance between you. So are people supposed to just stand around?
Oh.
Oh!
Well, you can talk to people if you want. There are games that are gonna start soon.
Why are these lines fully voiced? No one else's lines get to be fully voiced. Why are these the lines that get to be 100% fully voiced during this one interaction? That's actually real. It's good, because I wish every line was fully voiced, but I get that that would be a lot of recording. But God, that's creepy. And the bounce house should open later if you feel like jumping. Then after that, it's cake and present time. We'll have ice cream too. After that is when people will start going home. I hope that's okay with you. Cove nodded. He seemed a little more confident about the situation now. That's a plan, thanks. You gave Miranda a thumbs up and she smiled in return. She seemed slightly less uncomfortable. Miranda waited there and you became hyper-aware of the silence forming. You heard a shout for a Randy and Miranda brightened up, a total of 180 with how stiff she had been with you.
I gotta talk to some more people. Bye!
The birthday girl ran off to her friend, leaving you and Cove with at least a little more of an idea of what to expect. You both glanced at each other wordlessly. You felt a little disappointed. It was going to be hard to get to know Miranda better with how in demand she was probably going to be today. Hopefully, you would get to talk with her later. All that was left now was finding something to fill the time until the activities began. Well, let's talk with Cove, because talking to Cove is always great. You started talking about how you felt about this kind of birthday party and what you wanted to do for your next birthday. Cove made the occasional suggestion. The conversation became silly as you started joking about ridiculous party ideas. Cove wanted a moon party, and you wondered if anyone had ever tried to make a cake big enough for the party location. Suddenly, a loud voice boomed over the crowd. The constant buzz of the conversation dropped as one of the adults, maybe Miranda's dad, asked the kids to gather around because it was game time. I wonder what's gonna happen. You saw a picture of a donkey hung on a tree, a table with a lot of candy, and even more balloons. I guess we could be playing pin the tail on the donkey. I doubt it. Cove! Cove. Cove. Then what do you think it's about? You pointed to the poster of the tailless donkey. He shook his head. I've never seen anybody play that in real life. The adult announced that the children under 10 had the first turn on the bounce house. For everyone else, it was time to play pin the tail on the donkey. You had called it! Cove raised his eyebrows. He was surprised for sure. Pin the tail on the donkey sounded like fun. You could even win! You casually stepped up to join the line. The donkey in question was a cartoony poster with big eyes that looked more like ping pong balls. It was positioned a few feet above the ground on a tree trunk. The teen who arrived first was blindfolded, then spun around. He was nudged to the sign and away from the other kids so he wouldn't stick someone with the tail instead. Unfortunately for him, he placed the tail on the donkey's head like some kind of bizarre earring. He wouldn't be winning that far from the target. His next opponent did far better by landing on the donkey's back. The spectators clapped politely and the line moved up. More teens tried their hand. Some got closer than others, but no one had gotten it perfect yet. Soon it was Cove's turn. He was blindfolded and spun just like the others. At this point, it was a close match and everyone was watching with bated breath. Cove approached the donkey and stuck the tail on without any hesitation. Cove stood back and removed his blindfold, cheering when he saw how close he was. He turned his head over his shoulder and grinned at you. Your turn. With the blindfold on and the bright park became utterly dark. As you were spun around, the sounds around you seemed to get louder. At least you could tell the direction of the bounce house from the shrieks of the younger children. You stopped spinning and stepped forward, tail in hand. It was time to give it a stab. Okay, choices. Let's place it to the right. You placed the tail on the target and stepped back. You took off your blindfold to check your results. There was some more clapping from the audience. The tail wasn't too far off. Behind you, there was a particularly enthusiastic ooh, and a few people mentioned how close you got. You smiled and looked back at Cove. He seemed amused. His tail wasn't off by much either, and you couldn't tell which of you was winning. They were just too nearby each other. A few more kids took their turn. One girl managed to somehow pin the tail on the opposite side of the tree. You were pretty sure it had to be on purpose. With the line empty, the game was finally over. The adult running things started to inspect the donkey. At this point, the sign was more tails than donkey. In the end, Cove was announced the winner with lots of smiles and applause. He grinned and seemed pretty proud of himself. He was handed a fistful of candy from the man in charge. Cove needed both his hands to accept it all. He accepted with a nod and backed off. He tucked the candy in his pockets. It filled more than one. You looked... Let's do it. Let's tease the poor boy. Let's tease him. Really? Wait, what? A blush started on his cheeks and you giggled. Eventually, he chuckled along with you, looking pleased enough. I'm gonna ask if you're willing to share your prize, Cove. Some of the treats looked really good, and surely if you didn't downsize his prize, it was just gonna fall out of his pockets anyway. Could I have some of the candy? He shoved his hand into his pocket and pulled some of the candy back out.
Sure.
It's not like I can eat it all. You smiled and chose a few of your favorites. You made sure to leave Cove the candies you knew he liked best. An older teen walked up, tall enough to tower over you and Cove. You felt a little intimidated by this stern-faced teenager until she started to speak. Her voice was low, but friendlier than her tough frown would suggest. Hi, I'm handing out party favors. Do you want one? She showed you party hats. She insisted they were a key to a true partying mood. She had two options, either a colorful headband with two tiny party hats, arranged almost like ears, or a tiara with a star on it. They were both very festive.
It's okay.
No thanks. You knew the teen hadn't actually glared at him. Her default facial expression just seemed grim. I want a headband. I want a blue hat. The teenager handed you a hat with a surprising amount of gutso, given her expression never changed. She gave you a serious thumbs up for taking it. I'm gonna encourage you to pick one, Cove. You held a pink headband hat in one hand and a crown in the other. You tried to imagine what they'd look like on Cove. You really should try it. It'd be great. Cove looked back at the hats and then at you. With a sigh, he grabbed hold of one. The team with the hats clapped as much as she could with all the hats in her hands. The unknown teenager nodded approvingly at you both and went to pass out more hats to more people. You put the party hat on your head with a smile and it fit well. It was surprisingly comfortable. It looks good on you. It does look very good on me, thanks! You looked him straight in the eye and he seemed unsure how to handle that reaction to his statement. He floundered for a second until he came up with a response. You don't have to brag. You struck a pose and he rolled his eyes. Oh, you're so adorable. Oh, you're so adorable. Oh, that's adorable. Cove finally put his own hat on. He was nervous about it, his face uncertain.
That's,
I don't know about this. I feel kind of silly. Does it look weird? You look great. It's completely perfect. You look great, Cove. Oh, thanks. Look at the face. It's so adorable. He readjusted his hat bashfully. After that, the people in charge quickly set up the next game. Teenagers milled about until they were told to find partners. You tried to listen to the rules, straining your ears to listen to the adult announcing what you were supposed to do. It was a simple game. One person in a pair would throw candy while the other had to catch it in their mouth. If they caught it, the pair would move on to the next round where everyone would take a step back and the former catcher would become the thrower. The game would continue, the players getting further and further until one set of partners were the only ones left standing, or everyone lost in a round. About half the guests had already found partners. They moved fast. You noticed Cove had his eyes on you. He just stared at you expectantly, and you knew what he was getting at. Neither of you were all that familiar with anyone else here. It'd be a safe choice to pair up. Also, why would you pair up with anyone else when Cove is right there? God! That's... I agree. Let's do it, partner!
cool.
Ah, he beamed at you and you started wondering about your respective candy-catching abilities. 2 rows of players facing each other formed. Cove tilted his head towards them and you started to head over. You both lined up directly in front of each other, and it took a while to pass out the candy. You were handed a small bag of gummies that smelled strongly fruity. That didn't sound right. You noticed Cove took it upon himself to do a taste test of a red one across from you. They're not bad. You tried one for yourself. You ended up grabbing a purple gummy. It was sweet. You guessed it was supposed to be grape flavored, but it was mostly just really sugary. And then it was time to begin. Cove's row was set to throw first. He smiled nervously, his eyes wide with seriousness. You grinned widely and he seemed to relax a little. The game was on. The adult in charge shouted for the throws to go. You and Cove were only a couple of feet away from each other. With Cove's careful toss, you caught the candy easily. Like you, most of the other players moved into the next round. There were a few gaps in the rows as everyone took a step back. The round was a bit harder with pairs further apart, but not overly so. It could be done if both partners tried. I am going to do my goddamn best! My boy deserves candy in his mouth. You carefully plucked a gummy from the bag and felt the weight. You shifted it in your hands a couple of times for practice, then told Cove you were ready. You went for an underhand throw, careful to aim for Cove's mouth. The blue candy arced and landed perfectly in Cove's mouth. Oh, look at him! He's so cute! He chewed it twice, then smiled widely. You could tell Cove was genuinely pleased to make it through another round. You were happy as well. The next round began and you took another step back. Cove was even further away now and he made an okay sign. He was in this to win it. Around you, the once packed rows of players had thinned out some. You wondered how many rounds everyone had left in them. Cove swung his arm and made eye contact with you. You nodded and the green candy flew towards you. You followed the arc of the candy and opened your mouth wide. It had a slight spin on it and you tilted your head to the left to compensate. You bit down on the candy, grinning with your victorious catch. It tasted sweet and vaguely like a Slurpee. Yeah, Blue! Cove was thrilled. He was entirely invested in the game at this point. You and Cove were still in the game. You knew this was the final round. Only a few other pairs were still left. Cove was determined to win. You could see it in the clench of his jaw, the careful way he watched you. Let's be charmed. I'm charmed. You liked having a partner that was so into the game. His determination sparked something in you. Admiration? An answering desire to win? You weren't sure. Cove gave you a firm grin and you prepared to throw. Your fingers grabbed an orange gummy from the bag. It felt solid in your grasp, even as your hand was starting to get sticky from touching all the sugary sweets. Cove leaned his face towards you and bent his knees, ready to catch. The time came, you looked at the candy and then Cove. I am going to try my best. Why am I going to mess up? The candy flew like a missile straight towards him. He positioned himself effortlessly for it. Cove caught the candy just like that. A wide grin spread on his face as he victoriously chomped down on the candy. Yes! Along with the cheer, he jumped up in excitement and pumped one arm. A beat passed and then he realized how loud he'd been. Cove turned red and brought one of his hands up to his face. We got it. You look to your left and then to your right. You see a few remaining pairs walking away, commiserating over their losses. With some shock, you realize that you and Cove were the only ones that made it that round. You won! You watched the moment Cove clicked into the same realization. His face brightened like sunshine and he jogged over the close distance between you. You stepped closer to meet him halfway. I am going to hug him, okay? I'm gonna hug him. His eyes went big and he realized you were going for a hug. He smiled and caught you, hugging you back tightly. You won this together. He giddily stomped his feet in place in front of you as though he couldn't get it. Look how adorable this boy is! Do you not realize how adorable this boy is? We did it! You adjusted the hat that had clearly fallen off throughout the event. Nice catch! Nice throw! The game runner strolled over and merrily gave you both a bunch more candy on top of letting you keep the gummy bags. It was quite the collection. Cove laughed over just how much candy you both acquired. Between this game and Pin the Tail on the Donkey, you were swimming in sugar now. I think our parents are gonna be like, what happened? Why do you have so much candy? With the candy toss over, you were going to need something else to do. You didn't have to wait long. You heard someone in the crowd shout that the bounce house was officially open for the older kids. You and Cove shared a look. Cove smiled and you knew he wanted in. You both ran over to the bouncy castle and kicked your shoes off. You crawled into the inflated castle with Cove hot on your heels. There were a couple other teens inside already. You started to get a feel for bouncing. Cove hopped from the middle to the side and back. Just after you landed in a particularly high jump, someone else snuck in. It was the birthday girl herself. Hi, Miranda. Hi, birthday girl. Miranda looked happy. She waved her hands at you with a megawatt grin. I hope you're having fun. She hopped around with her hands in front of her like a kangaroo. It was a surprisingly effective way to clear distance in the bounce house. She then jumped high, kicking both her feet out to the side and touched the tip of her toes with her fingers. Wow! Miranda hadn't run out of tricks yet. She jumped a couple more times, gaining height before doing a backflip, tucking into a ball. She managed to land on her feet, but didn't stick the landing. She tumbled back and fell on her butt. Cove clapped and Miranda inclined her head, almost like a bow. She was back to jumping in no time. You're so good at this. She bounced close enough to the two of you to talk without shouting across the way. Cove's bouncing slowed down to accommodate their conversation.
My family gets these every year. And we have a trampoline in the backyard.
Why was that so soft? Hold on. I'm concerned. Why was that so soft? Like, I could barely hear her. Okay, there we go. There we go. Now there's no excuse. That's really cool. Miranda giggled and then her eyes sparkled. Hey, I can launch someone if you want. If I jump in front of you and then your bounce will go higher. Okay, launch me! Sure. Miranda leaped over you, her excitement clear on her face. Cove watched with interest. She explained more clearly how this was supposed to work. You got ready to bounce on her cue. 3, 2, 1. The moment she came down, you jumped high. The force of her, just as she had said, helped launch you up. The air rushed past your face as you were then coming back down. Your feet hit the bounce house hard enough to help launch Miranda back up a little as well. She giggled some more and the two of you took turns bouncing each other up. Cove clapped or offered suggestions, but it was becoming clear he wanted a turn too. Miranda invited him to join and tried to synchronize your bounces to launch Cove up super high. The first time resulted in everyone crashing down into a pile of laughs. By the fifth attempt, Cove managed to catch some serious airtime. Woo! You all had fun bouncing around. You twirled, Miranda did stunts, and Cove futilely tried to touch the highest tip of the castle's ceiling. You and Cove chatted to Miranda more than you had ever at school. She truly was the queen of this bouncy house. Whenever someone did something cool, everyone would cheer. If you fell, the others would help you up. Eventually, more people wanted to take turns in the bounce house, so you and Cove left. As you slipped on your shoes, you saw Miranda get drawn into conversation with a group of adults. She would be talking with them for a while. You and Cove decided to take a break and hydrate. You went to the party table and grabbed some ice water. Cove handed you a party noisemaker he'd picked up from the same table. He blew on his and it made a funny sound when it unrolled. Cove downed his drink in a couple gulps. He had gotten pretty into bouncing after all. You were still sipping on your water. Look at that face! Look at that adorable face! That adorable. He looks so cute with his face like that. I'm sorry, I had to go full screen for that. It was almost a tune. You didn't recognize any particular melody, but a noisemaker also isn't an instrument. The noise cut through the hum of the other party guests, loud and noticeable. Let's blow it. Let's blow it back at Cove. You blew hard enough to unfurl the paper completely straight. It jutted towards Cove, almost tapping his chin. Cove wasn't going to let that stand. He retaliated and blew his back at you. It nearly touched your nose. It was a game now. Both of you tried to land a light hit on each other. Cove managed to get... Oh, look at it. He's even cuter when he's blushing. He's even cuter when he's blushing, guys. Cove managed to get you on your chin while you scored right in between his eyes. I'm going to keep it full screen like this until he stops being adorable.
Oh, great. You people again.
Damn it! You ruined a good moment, Jeremy! You ruined a good moment, Jeremy! Someone vaguely familiar shouted and you snapped your head to the side. Cove's noisemaker dropped from his mouth. The speaker stepped up and there was no doubt. It was Jeremy, that mean boy you met at the start of summer. Oh hey, it's the bowl cut kid! I'm either gonna groan or I'm gonna say, hey, it's the bowl cut kid. Let's go for it. Let's go bowl cut kid. Jeremy's scowl told you everything about what he thought of that moniker. Why are you here? Cove's tone was defensive. You watched Jeremy's face turn slack as if Cove's question was the idiocy above all idiocies. Didn't I already explain this? He hadn't, so both you and Cove exchanged a look. Do you have a memory loss or are you really that stupid? Seriously.
I didn't walk here.
My parents brought me. Apparently, I couldn't just stay inside like I wanted. No, they had to insist that I get out and enjoy the day and have a fun on vacation. Blah, blah, blah. He said enjoy the day and have fun on vacation like some people would say scrub the entire bathroom or listen to an off-key singer for 10 hours. They found a park just because I hate the beach. Too bad I also hate parks. Ugh, it's so dirty here. They don't know anything. Oh, and then they saw the stupid party and decided to bother some adults by asking what was going on. They think maybe we could be included. It's moronic. Get it now? That's how my parents are. Annoying and embarrassing. Why would anyone want strangers at their birthday? Why can't they ever just leave things alone? He huffed loudly, his eyes shot daggers at some grown-ups that presumably were his parents. And all you can do is complain about it! Sucks to be you! I'm gonna say that. Shut up! Jeremy's eyes slipped away from you to take in the rest of the park for a little bit. It was a little awkward. It was possible he didn't know what to do, but then he spoke again.
So dumb.
How can people really go around in these embarrassing party hats? Do they think it's fun or something? How could a human be so dumb? Oh, screw you! I'm going to freaking beat you up! God! That's rude, especially after I got Cove to wear one. Don't you dare insult him. He's adorable. It's just kinda nice to do party stuff. Jeremy scoffed, unimpressed. The expression on his face was nasty as he spoke. I'm not surprised an empty-headed person like you would think like that. Dude! Jeremy! You're getting very close to reaching the end of my nerves! Jeremy looked you over, completely dismissive. It's so rude, you can't help but feel offended. Cove's face hardened. He seemed more offended than when anyone actually insulted him personally.
Hey!
Just because you don't know how to be happy doesn't mean no one else does. And it's not our fault if you hate everything. It's not okay for you to take it out on Blue. She isn't doing anything wrong. You are. Jeremy seemed unfazed by Cove's defense and sniffed. Blue can handle herself on her own. She doesn't need you to step in and do it for her. Oh, screw you! I like a gentleman who comes to my defense. Go! I want to do all three of these. I really do. But I'm gonna pour the drink on him because I feel like that is a better retaliation. It's not physical violence, but it's still freaking humiliating. Should make him realize he can't treat people this way. You made sure to thoroughly soak him before he had time to react. He yelped back and snapped at you.
Are you crazy?
What are you doing? Ugh, are you crazy? Gross. You're ruining Oh, I could say something. You're ruining someone's birthday. I mean, I don't want to go to his parents because I just poured water on their child, but at the same time, I feel like they need to have a conversation. But, let's go with you're ruining someone's birthday. People were starting to watch what was going down. Your argument wasn't exactly quiet at this point. Why don't you just leave us alone if we're so awful? Jeremy glared even more and huffed.
Dumbasses.
Talking to you is pointless. He stalked off like the last time you saw him, muttering under his breath. Cove sighed at relief after Jeremy was gone. He relaxed, but only for a moment. He noticed just how much attention you'd drawn from the other guests. Luckily, it hadn't gone on long enough to get a real crowd. A concerned adult in a blue button-up shirt approached you and asked who that was, and if everyone was all right.
It's okay.
I'm fine. Cove looked at you cautiously, asking just as much as the adult if you were okay. It's cool. Not what I would call fun, but I'll live. The concerned adult lingered for a few seconds, but nodded and left you alone. The Jeremy fiasco was officially over. Cove rubbed his eyes, clearly ready to put all that nonsense behind him. Then he started laughing. It was a surprise laugh, breaking out on his chest without any actual joy. It was nervous and disbelieving and all the complex emotions brought out by one meeting with Jeremy. I can't believe it. He spoke in fits and starts. You poured your drink on him. The look on his face. He deserved it. He deserved it. He can't just say things and get away with it. Cove nodded to himself and then continued speaking.
I mean,
I wouldn't want someone to do it to me, but it's not like I can blame you. He was treating us bad for no reason. I'm pretty sure he'll be okay. I bet it won't even change anything for him. Cove paused and shyly twisted his fingers together. Then, in a quieter voice, he spoke. And if you're bad for doing it, I'm bad too, 'cause I kinda like watching you do it, Blue. He became bashful and barely able to meet your eyes as he smiled shyly. But only 'cause he deserved it. I wouldn't have wanted it to happen to someone out of nowhere or anything. I feel flattered. Aww. I feel flattered. Do you want to tell your moms about Jeremy? Oh, no. We do not tell the adults. Are you gonna say what you did back at him? They'd probably be nice about it, and maybe they'd know how to handle someone like him. Cove bit his lip in thought. I'm not gonna tell them anything if you don't. Thanks for asking. Feel like I'm gonna get in trouble if I tell my moms. Let's be nice. Let's bring it up to them. I'll let them know everything.
All right.
Okay. You thought back to your retaliation and winced internally. You were probably gonna get in trouble. Not bad trouble, not as long as your moms knew you'd been picked on first, but some trouble. At least I didn't hit him. Like, seriously, I could have punched the boy. And then I'd actually, feel like maybe I should deserve some trouble. I just poured water on him. There's nothing wrong. I didn't even have juice, I just had water. I'm sorry, Cove. It's my fault you were wearing the hat in the first place. Cove shook his head. If anything, he seemed surprised at your apology.
Don't worry about it.
Aw, he's so cute! I don't mind that you did. It's been fun. This whole day has been fun. Except for Jeremy, and he's gone now. He reached up and flicked his hat with pride, giving you a small grin. It made you happy. Finally, you bent over to pick up the noisemaker that Cove dropped when Jeremy appeared. It might be too dirty to use now, but you didn't want to leave it there. He accepted it back softly when you offered the little favor back to him. Thanks, Blue. I like how we can be there for each other. It makes me feel better about that kind of stuff when it happens. Yeah. Cove suggested that you should find a seat at one of the tables. It was almost cake time and he wanted to be prepared. It was a good reminder that the party wasn't over yet. This thing is long. Look at that, we're almost at 40 minutes. I didn't think this was gonna be so long. Cake! I think the table works. It's close to refreshments at least. You and Cove tried to settle down after the last event. You took seats across from one another at one of the park tables. There were a few attempts to chat, but for the most part, you simply watched the adults run around to set up the cake cutting. There was a minor panic when you assumed was Miranda's dad apparently forgot the lighter for the candles. He and another man, though, went through and started asking the other adults for matches or lighters. They weren't having any luck until a grim-faced teenager who had been passing out party hats pulled a green lighter out of the ice cream cooler. Why the lighter had been put in the cooler remained a mystery, but with the party hat girls find, it was time to get things going again. Miranda sat at the head of the longest table. A large chocolate cake was set in front of her. She lit all 14 candles with the cooler lighter with a big smile. The adults started singing Happy Birthday and the rest of the guests joined in. At the end of the song, Miranda blew out the candles with a dedicated huff. She closed her eyes and you saw her silently mouth something. Maybe it was a birthday wish. Miranda cut her own slice, then one of the grown-ups took over cutting the cake. Another adult passed around plates of cake slices with a scoop of vanilla ice cream to the guests. Eventually, the cake got around to you and Cove. Cove was pleased with the treat in general. The cake looked rich and moist and smelled quite chocolatey. I want cake and ice cream. You took a bite of ice cream. The vanilla wasn't bad, but it was a little bland. The chocolate cake, however, was a rich flavor. Cove then took his fork and started mashing up some of his cake. When the cake resembled a pile of crummy chunks, he started mixing it into the ice cream. The melted parts of the ice cream made kind of a chocolate cake soup. I've never done that, but I want to now. How does it taste? Really good, but it's better with brownies. He grinned and took a bite of his own mix. Cove contentedly chowed down on his concoction. One advantage of his mix was that the ice cream seemed to catch most of the crumbs that would usually fall off from eating a cake. Unlike some of the kids around him, Cove's shirt remained clean. You started eating your dessert in earnest. You enjoyed yourself plenty. Cove suddenly put his fork down on his plate and stared up at the sky with a faraway expression. You checked, but didn't see anything attention-grabbing. The ice cream is better than those ones in cups. You know, the little wooden spoons? But I still kind of want that instead. You remembered what kind he was talking about. Oh yeah, like the ones handed out at the barbecue before the fireworks happened.
Right.
Aww. Cove smiled nostalgically at the thought. You could picture a younger Cove for a moment with the same look in his eye. Since we're talking about that time, can I have a bite of yours again? Cove raised his eyebrows for half a second before the realization came back. Laughter burst out of him. Yeah, I remember that part too. I'm serious, Cove. I'm sharing things with you. Really, Cove, let's share. He rubbed his neck, leaning back in his seat. He was taken aback, even more bashful. Look at his shy face. I've already started eating it, so you probably shouldn't. It's different when Cove boy, you look adorable. That does not mean I don't want the ice cream. Does not mean I don't want the cake. Don't want to get my cooties now, huh? Blue. He spoke with a terser tone. You were testing him. Cove gulped and he gulped as he looked at you and then at your respective dessert plates. He scooped up some of his cake and ice cream mix onto his fork and passed it over. His face was disbelieving, as if he was surprised he was doing this. You smiled. I'm smiling at you, my baby boy. Thank you. Thanks, Cove. Miranda then started to open her gifts. She systematically attacked the mountain of presents like a pro. She checked for any cards and read them loudly before opening a gift. She smiled at every present, including the ones you and Cove got her. You were glad the presents were accepted. It took time, but eventually Miranda got through all the gifts. She was very sweet and polite through it all. The party went on until the sun began to set. At that point, most of everything had settled down and people had begun to leave. Any of the guests whose parents had stayed for the party were already gone, except for Miranda's family. Only a few kids were waiting for their parents to come and get them remained, you and Cove included. Miranda's family were cleaning up, and as a guest, neither you nor Cove were supposed to help with that. Instead, you both had decided to take it easy in the bouncy castle. It was somewhere out of the way where you could casually wait for your ride. Miranda had also elected to hang out with you. You weren't even bouncing anymore. Cove laid on his side with his back to a wall. Miranda sat across from him with her legs stretched out. You also made yourself comfortable. It was nice and warm in the little building. It also felt like you had some privacy, which was nice. You could all speak openly here. Thanks for coming. She looked down, but continued shyly. It's been really cool to get to hang out with you a little bit. Thanks for letting me come. I didn't think I'd be invited. Thanks from me too, Miranda. Miranda just smiled a little more.
So...
Did you notice anything happening earlier with some people you didn't know showing up? Oh, Cove, don't bring up Jeremy! She had to think about his question a little. It was apparent she didn't have an encounter with Jeremy since there was no instant recognition. I heard about something. Some other parents were talking to my parents when their kid came and forced them to leave the park. She tilted her head to the side, finding it weird but also not important. Then everyone had cake and ice cream. Did I change her voice? I can't tell if I changed her voice. I'm forgetting things. Cove smiled uncomfortably. That's good. He was clearly worried that Jeremy's confrontation could have gotten to her. Luckily, it didn't seem that anyone had overheard or passed along Jeremy's cruel words. Cove rolled over on his back and sighed contentedly. Miranda seemed confused but wasn't going to push. The air-filled floor was comfy, and when you listened, you could feel the vibrations of the blower keeping this bounce house up. The silence stretched on between everyone, and you opened your eyes to take a peek at the others. Cove was still relaxing, but Miranda was looking between you two, confused. You smiled to yourself and closed your eyes once more. You spent the rest of the time content and dozing until it was time to go home. At the end of the day, you thought it had been quite the party. And there we go, everyone! Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Our Life Beginning and Always. Next time, we're probably either going to do Mall or Waves, because I think those two are the ones that I'd like to do next. Or both, depending on how short they are. If they're not long, like this monster was long. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I will catch you all on the flip side. Bye, everyone.